I caught up with a really good friend of mine, Mr. JP Duminy. We talk about the Proteas and our strong recent performances, also the inconsistency thereof. It's all on the interview with JP. I'll also be keeping an eye on the CPL, guys. Now, for those of you who don't know, I did play a season of CPL for the Barbados Tridents. It was an incredible tournament to be a part of. I love traveling the Caribbean. What a beautiful place. The playoffs have been gone, so you can catch all of that action on Fancode exclusively in India. So do not miss any of the action. A little bit about the tournament and the playoffs. The eliminator, which by the time the show goes out will be done and dusted, is between Trinbago Knight Riders, and they take on Antigua and Barbuda Falcons. That's on Wednesday morning, 2 a.m. SAST. But by that time, obviously, the game will be done. We'll know the result, so bear that in mind. But in qualifier 1, the defending champions St. Lucia Kings will be taking on the Guyana Amazon Warriors. This match will take place on Thursday morning, 2 a.m. South African Standard Time. We'll be watching that one together, and I will give you some feedback on that, as some of my good friends are taking part in the knockout stages of the CPL. The St. Lucia Kings, Tim Seifert has been the destructive batsman, 338 runs at a strike rate of 179, which is considerably high. Tim David has been relatively quiet, my RCB friend, but maybe in the knockouts he will come to the party and win a game or two for his team. We will see about that. With a ball in hand, Tabra Shamsi has been impressive for the Kings. 14 wickets in only 10 matches. Roston Chase also impressive with both bat and ball, having scored 236 runs, strike rate 151. And he's also picked up 9 wickets, which is impressive. Guyana Amazon Warriors, this is the team I really want to talk about. Shai Hope scored an impressive 447 runs, strike rate 132, relatively low, but remember, he's the guy that sort of keeps things together for a batting lineup and allows others to be very aggressive. He is the league's leading run scorer. He's been complimented by the likes of Shimron Hetmeyer, and that's exactly what I talk about, someone who's been allowed to be very aggressive because of Shai Hope, Romario Shepherd, Dwayne Pretorius, and also Moeen Ali, the Englishman, with 18 wickets. Here it is, the 46-year-old youngster, Imran Tahir, once again the leading wicket taker at the CPL 2025. Absolutely amazing. Very proud of Imi. All the best with the knockouts. Imi Tahir also spoke about the SA Tour of England in this weekend's live. So also covering some of the SA20 auction picks and the Asia Cup. You can check that out on the channel if you missed that. But for now, here is my chat with JP Duminy from last week, where we also spoke about our experience playing together in the WCL. I hope you enjoy it. Jabs, thanks for joining us on the 360 show. Thanks for making time. We've come a long way together, Kops. I call you Koppa. I don't even know why. You can maybe explain to the people where Koppa comes from. I think that's since you're probably 9 or 10 years old. Where did that come from?
Faisal Simon was his name, or is his name rather. And he was a Western Province junior cricketer that I played with. And you know the old Missouri helmets that we used to use back in the day? And for some reason, this part of the helmet sat very high on my head. And, you know, typical sort of colored culture, you know, you always find these nicknames for each other. And then he sort of spoke about, hey, you got a big head. And like the Afrikaans term, as we know, like slang term, is kopper, meaning big head. And then for some reason, it just stuck. And, you know, whenever I was in cricketing environments, kopper came out, and then, you know, you guys sort of latched onto it. And then it was Kopper G, Kopsies, and like everything with a Kop. And then it just sort of stuck.
Yeah, it's something you can write a book about, the different nicknames you find in the cricketing circles. I find it intriguing. There's some funny ones around, but we'll cover that at another time. There's some under the belt stuff as well, so we're not going to go there. You find yourself in Cape Town right now, James?
Yeah, in Cape Town. So obviously we spent some time in the UK. That was really cool. In the WCL, and then now back in the UK for a few weeks, and then actually heading to Dallas, of all places, for a T10 league. It's called the NCL. So I'm doing a coaching gig there. And then, a couple of bits and pieces of coaching coming up. So I've got the the ILT20 later in December, and then come back in January. Part of hoping you're going to be there as well. Part of the commentary team for SA20, which is cool.
James, before we're going to cover all of that, a bit of IPL, SA20. We're going to talk about the WCL, that the two of us took part in. Very special moments for the two of us, I think. Well, at least for me, I think when I saw your face with those winning runs, I think it meant a lot to you as well. First up, the main topic will be South African cricket's resurgence and the way a relatively a team that sort of no one really looked at to be promising for the future since like 2018, 20, somewhere there. Everyone looking from the outside in, I'm talking media and the knowledgeable cricketing brains around the world, really didn't give the Proteas a chance to feature in any of the formats. And somehow they've managed to do so. I think of players like Imitayer, JP, obviously yourself, Dale Steyn, Chris Morris, Faf, Morne Morkel, myself, all of us retired between 2018 and 2021. How did they manage to, because you spent a bit of time there as batting coach, how did they manage to sort of keep things together with a relatively young, inexperienced team and also coaching staff?
I think the starting point here is understanding that transition can be tough at times. A transitioning period, there's no real time frame to it, right? So when you're trying to understand your identity as a team and the style of play, I think it can take a little bit of time. And I think that's where, in all formats where South Africa found themselves, it's really trying to understand who are we as a cricketing team. And now I think they're really establishing the style of play. And, I think it's driven by leadership. So I like to come back to this idea of everything rises and falls on leadership. And as you mentioned there, I had a brief stint as batting coach. I think it was a year and a half under Rob Walter. And even then you could see that there was never a question. Even we know this for a fact as players. There is never a question about the talent in South African cricket. And it was really about the leadership and then driving the narrative of how do we play this game? How do we go out on that field and represent the style of play and stick with it, And I think there's certainly a sense that we've got an identity now. And I look at Shukri. I think you know a little bit about him as well. I've certainly played under him quite a number of years in the sort of middle parts of my career. One of the best coaches that I've played under. And why that is really about, he's very clear on what he wants. There's no BS about him. He's a straight shooter. He has very clear thoughts on how he wants to play the game. And he sort of imparts that knowledge and wisdom to the team. And I think importantly, he's got a clear understanding of the type of players that he wants. And I think he's found that formula for the most part. There's some great leaders in our team currently as well in terms of players that is driving the narrative of style of play. He's got a great support staff. But for us, if I think about myself and Rob and all the guys that have come through the ranks of the last couple of years, it was really about nurturing and fostering their talent. And, I'd like to think that we contributed to it, but, as coaches, it's never a case of wanting to take the credit. But I think now there's a real quiet confidence. There isn't anything flashy about social media or anything like that. It's really about let my bat and ball do the talking. And, there's this, you can see it in their eyes and in their body language. I mean, I just look at the way Aiden Markram played against England in this first ODI yesterday. I mean, everything looked about a presence about him. And that was what I really enjoyed. Yes, I mean, everything seemed to have found the middle of the bat. Actually, there was a shot where he played, I think it was Jofra Archer. He played a drive through mid-wicket. I don't know if you saw that. It actually reminded me of you facing Wild Villiers at Eden Park, cut like a drive through mid-wicket. And I thought, no. When you're playing that kind of shots, you know that you have your confidence and your tail is up. But there's certainly something brewing in the background there with that leadership team that is really fostering a great culture, fostering a great presence about how we want to play the game, and it's exciting to watch.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with Shukri is just that clarity in role definition. It seems to me like it's not a flashy team at all. They almost seem to operate under the radar, but his leadership has sort of empowered a lot of individuals that in other teams might be a little bit confused of where they should be fitting in and how they should be playing. It seems very clear. Might not be superheroes from start to finish. I think we do have a lot of match winners, but still very sort of quiet and confidence. And I think you explained it exceptionally well. You mentioned Rob Walter a few times there. Just a few words on him, your relationship, and I'm not expecting you to sort of say exactly what happened because I still don't know why he moved on and how it all happened and what happened behind closed doors. Just a few words on Robbie.
We've walked an interesting journey in the cricketing spaces where you would know this to be true. He entered into the Proteas setup as the SNC, the fitness trainer, and he certainly pushed us, on a physical level to levels that we never thought about. And through that journey, you and I and many others in that team at the time built an unbelievable relationship with him. And I've always seen him as a very dynamic leader. He carries great integrity, honesty, but also just has a clear understanding of how he wants to lead environments. Great understanding of culture, of team, and particularly, on getting the best out of players. And I think that is a great strength of his. I was really excited when I saw that he came on board in the with the national team as the head coach, and even more so when he reached out, and asked me to join his support staff. And I mean, we had an unbelievable time. Unfortunately, didn't get over the line in the T20 World Cup in 2024, but broke boundaries in the sense that from an ICC perspective, went one step further against that elusive semi-final. So there was some progress made, and yes, we certainly know that we had the opportunity to go all the way. Unfortunately, we didn't get over the line. But I like to think that the way he brought his style into the national team certainly fostered some great opportunities for guys to be the best that they could be. We saw some great players come through the ranks under his tenure, and then sort of handed over the baton to Shukri. I mean, there was split coaches at the time, but what I certainly found as a support staff member was they had a great understanding, in how they wanted to do things, even though there are subtle differences in their approach. But I think the main goal was very aligned, and they communicated well. But unfortunately, these things happen in environments. Opportunities come up, things don't particularly work as well as you would like, and then you have to make informed decisions about what's best for the team and yourself. And things unfortunately didn't quite line up. But I think it's opened up a door now for Shukri to take over all formats. And I honestly think we explored the idea of split coaching, and now then sort of going back to the traditional way. And I actually like this style a little bit more, where somebody's taking the reins and then leading the team across all formats. And I think we certainly under good leadership right now. He is obviously coached at the domestic level. He's coached at the academy level, the SAA level. He's lost his jobs within those and having to really find his way. He's gone into the commentary space. So he's been in the coaching world probably for 25 years in high performance. So I think that he's done the hard work and now sort of reaping the fruits of.
When you go through transitional phase, I think it's nice to have a few coaches to sort of share the workload, to have a lot of brainstorming sessions to make sure we get the right squad in place. And ultimately, when you find your feet, for one coach to take over. So I think they're in a sweet spot right now. I think Rob will be missed, but he is also taking on new challenges as well. And I think he had his impact, as you alluded to. Comparing this team, or setup rather, to 2008 to 2013, JP, when we had a very good run, especially in the test format for 5 years, dominating pretty much world cricket at that time, especially in test cricket. What's the similarities and the differences between the two setups, you would say?
Graeme Smith was our leader back then, or for the most part of it. I mean, you took over a little bit, I think, in the white ball formats. But I think if I just speak into that quickly, I'm a firm believer that everyone comes with some sort of subtle differences in terms of their leadership style. So if you think about yourself, one thing that, among many others, but one thing that stood out was that you led through performance. I remember distinctly, we were playing we were playing against New Zealand, and we had this team meeting, and you mentioned, boys, just follow me. Those are the words. I couldn't remember the full extent of the conversation, but in the team meeting before the game, we were 2-2 in the series. Just follow me. We're going to be okay. And that's what I mean by lead through performance. And then Graeme, yes, has elements of lead through performance. But if you would know this to be the case, when you walked into a room, there was an aura about him. There was a presence about him. When he spoke, people gravitated towards him. Faf, on the other hand, had subtle differences. Hashim had subtle differences. So if we look at that, I think the leadership fostered great followers and the environment and the culture. But even the culture was such a big piece of conversation and intention back then. I think it was 2010 where we had that team culture camp with Jeremy Snape, if I remember, and that was a huge transitional piece for us in terms of our fostering relationships. And then you think about this team right now. I think going through that transition there as well is such a pivotal part, right? So if you think about us transitioning from 2008, 2009, culture became such a big thing, and then gave us this run of form. And I think now with South African cricket going through a transitional piece, finding the sweet spot, as you're saying, about, okay, from a cultural point of view, from a performance point of view, from a player pool point of view, there's a nice nucleus there. And again, what's standing out for me, what's the similarities, is understanding your leadership here, and them taking the reins and coming back to the start of, if everything rises and falls on leadership, they're doing something right.
But going over to the WTC, obviously incredible performance there, winning the Mace. I love the way they celebrated and also kept the composure in the celebrations on the park, but then in the team bus, all those songs coming out, it's definitely looking healthy with regards to team culture. But Temba specifically, what kind of impact do you think he's had in South Africa and for South African cricket and youngsters inspiring to be great one day?
I think the phrase that comes to mind for me is role model. I think he's really leaned into this idea that, his impact in our country is far beyond the game. It reminds me in a different way. I mean, they're different characters. Sia Kolisi also comes to mind from a rugby point of view. Sia is very flamboyant in, getting involved with the people in the streets and singing and dancing and chanting. But that's not Temba. And I don't think we need to sort of paint Temba with the same sort of characteristics of. What stands out for me in that role model phase is that he also leads through performance. Working with him as a player and as a coach, when he speaks, he has a presence in the room and people listen, but more importantly, he backs it up in terms of his behaviors. And I think that is, those are strong characteristics of a good leader. He sort of quietly goes about his business, but there's a strong fire that burns inside him that he wants to lead his team through action. And that's a real strong characteristic of a great leader. And I think many people in our country have really gravitated towards him because he's done some amazing things.
Yeah, it's most definitely exciting times for South African cricket as we keep that resilience that we've always had. And I think more so now than ever, the guys just keep coming through, and it's really good to see, and it makes us all proud as former players. Talking about the IPL and SA20, which links in with South African cricket, as many of our players take part in the IPL, also the SA20 and various other leagues. Firstly, so many leagues around the world these days. What are your thoughts on that? Is it good for cricket? Is there possible pitfalls, or are you happy with the amount that's taking place around the world?
The reason why I say that, it's providing opportunities for guys to be exposed at different levels. So let's take a few steps back when IPL started, which was 2008. I think you played in the first one. I played in the second one. And it was all new, and you would feel that there was certain resistances in the cricketing landscape. What did it do? It created opportunities for let's call it the younger generation, or maybe players that weren't necessarily on the international stage yet, to be exposed. One, from a skills point of view, but also environment, to be exposed to players that they potentially only look up to and only watched on television. And now I'm sitting in the same change room, and all of a sudden it enhances my game and also my thinking of how I approach it. My first experience of IPL, I walked into the team bus, and because we were playing international cricket, I literally arrived on the day of the first game. Sachin Tendulkar, Jai Surya, Zaire Khan was the first people I walked into, and I'm a 20-year-old kid, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, this is so daunting. But what it did was it leveled me up in terms of my thinking, in terms of how I approach the game. But also, it gave me an opportunity to engage in conversations with them that helped me enhance my game. And I think that is the opportunity that presents itself, not only from a financial point of view. It's changed the earning capacity for so many cricketers, for sure, but also the style of play we play the game at, the skill sets have evolved. So that's what I think from a positive point of view. So let's look at. I think those are good things. What are the pitfalls? They don't necessarily have the drive and hunger to want to maybe represent their country or franchise within their country that they play, because they're seeing dollar signs. And I think that can be seen as a bit of a pitfall. When who was playing? It was your cream of the crop in terms of international cricket that then ended up playing there. And I would always want to encourage cricketers to strive to play for their country or franchise within the country they play in. And T20 opportunities or T10 opportunities, whatever it may be, is a byproduct of the performances that you are able to put in where you are, where you come from. You are always there's nothing can supersede the feeling and the experience of representing your country. I mean, you and I know this. There is such fulfillment in that, right? And it needs to go beyond just the earning capacity. There has to be purpose, or this is how I see it at least. There has to be purpose of doing it beyond just a paycheck. This is something that burns inside of you, and it's burned inside of you as a youngster for a long period of time, right? So to just let it be about earning capacity, I think it can go beyond. And I think as coaches, this is our responsibility to foster and encourage the younger generation to have a different mindset around, okay, so why do I play this game, right? I want to achieve certain things for sure as a team and as an individual. It's not just about playing a T20 league. We can do some great things as a team and as a country.
I don't really know what the answer is. I think to encourage people to keep wanting to play Test cricket, you might have to sort of come up with the finances possibly and the entertainment thereof, get the full crowds, make big tournaments thereof. And I think the WTC has come a long way in doing so. But I think they can do it even better in the future and have a bigger build-up, possibly semi-finals, and just to make it look big stage like the IPL is managing to do. And possibly there will be a really good future. I'm sure. I mean, Test cricket is in a very good state right now, so no concerns there. But it is all about a balance, and it's very difficult to get that balance absolutely spot on. Just last thing on the IPL for the current players, the impact you've seen it's had on guys like Brewer, Stubbs, Marco Jansen, Aiden, and a few guys, and obviously incredible to have that kind of exposure, but more so for the players we don't hear often of, like a Luandre Pretorius, who out of nowhere had his opportunity in SA20, another very good T20 league, and all of a sudden doors are opening up for him. How do you see that impact on the young players when they actually do get the chance?
Yeah, and this is one of the great stories that come out of the likes of an IPL and SA20, your substantial leagues that are floating around. It has an opportunity to create the superstar, and that's the beautiful story people love to see and hear, as Pretorius has become one of them, right? And Brevis now as well. But I think if we just link to the Brevis story, yes, he came on the scene, and he was sort of floating around playing in the Mumbai teams and so forth, in the various leagues, and that's great exposure for him. But what has been evident in Deerwald is that he's never minced his words about what's his ultimate goal. He wants to represent South Africa. Had a brief stint. I was actually part of the support staff when he came in. Didn't particularly go as well as he would have liked. Got then left out for a period of time. Actually went back to go and play for the Titans and dominated there. And yes, obviously had the exposure of the leagues as well, but always had his compass on the fact that I want to play for South Africa. And that drive, I think, has encouraged him to stick to the idea of, hey, I know that these things are great and great exposure and opportunities, but ultimately that feeds into my ultimate goal, and that is to represent South Africa one day. I love what he spoke about, making this commitment with himself that he's going to be the real Devat Brevis. I think he mentioned something about December. He just wants to be true to himself, and in the way he's playing the game right now, but also in the way he conducts himself. I think that is a great representation of maturity that has come through now, and it's showing in his game as well.
Yeah, I spoke to him yesterday, and that's exactly what he told me. His main goal is still to play for South Africa, and exactly what you said now, to be the real Devil Brevis. So he wants to find time in between series to go back to Stellenbosch, to his high school coach, to go and work there for a week. The coach is called Dion Boertes, and to work there for a week just on basics, have balls on the ground again. And he really wants to focus on that and keep his feet grounded and always go back to his roots, which I absolutely love. So I see a bright future there, and I'm looking forward to see him grow. James, SA20 quickly, you coach Paarl Royals. Your experience as a coach there, working or coaching Jos Butler, the likes of Jos Butler and many other greats of the game. What's the tournament like, and what was that coaching stint like?
It was a great sort of, in many ways, I think the phrase that comes to me, you either sink or swim. And why I say that is, at this point in time, when I got that opportunity, I was 1 year into my experience as a head coach, and that was on a domestic level. Yes, obviously, played the game internationally for 15 years, but obviously, as we know, coaching is very different. And, I looked at this opportunity, and as you mentioned there, Jos Butler, Owen Morgan, Jason Roy, David Miller, played against these guys for a number of years, and now at the helm, wanting to really have an impact. But I think the important thing that I sat with is, how do I be true to myself in this and not be overwhelmed by the occasion? Two World Cup winning captains. How do I utilize that experience and bring it into the environment? And my approach was certainly around capturing that experience and bringing it in. So fostering conversations with them in team environments and leaning into those experiences that they have. Hey, where do you think, in your successes, in your failures, how can that help, the people in this environment? And we sort of fostered those conversations quite nicely. So that was really, I needed to grow up very quickly in the coaching world, and also stand up for what I believe in, and not just feel that the people in the room has more experience than me, so they must have the loudest voice. I don't think it was about that. It was about being curious, not being judgmental. It was about asking great questions so that the information and wisdom can come into the environment. So I'm very grateful, even though it was just 1 year, I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity to experience. And naturally, what happens as a coach, you're not going to build the rapport, the relationships with everyone. You're not going to have the impact that you hope for with everyone. But all you can do is stay open to learning. Try and adapt as quickly as you can, particularly in a T20 format where you're coming into an environment for 5-6 weeks, maybe a week before. Some players come days before. And how do you create an environment everybody comes in and feels comfortable to be who they are? But yes, we all have a common goal in terms of where we're going and how we want to do things outside of just winning the tournament. Everybody wants to win the tournament. What's going to be unique in terms of what you bring as a coach and an environment that guys come in and really enjoy themselves. But more importantly, also have the drive and hunger to want to perform well. So there's some great lessons learned, some great opportunities that I've been given there that I think I certainly take on board going forward. That one, I wouldn't want to necessarily do the same, but also more importantly, how can I do things differently that will foster that to be better in the future?
I want to hop on one thing you said there before we move on to the WCL. You either swim or you sink. And it reminds me of a song of Coldplay, if you never try, you never know, kind of thing, you know. And it's the most incredible thing because as you were talking, I thought about moments in my life where I felt exceptionally uncomfortable. I think of public speaking, for instance, when I get invited to go and do a talk in front of 300 bankers in the financial system. I know, what am I going to teach us? Or what are they going to learn from me, you know? And that uncomfortable feeling the night before of so nervous. But when you face those fears, you might not hit a home run first up, but that incredible rewarding feeling when you walk out of knowing that I've learned so much through that experience and I'm ready for the next one is so valuable. Is there a couple of moments in your life where you felt like that? And what did you take? What did you learn from there? And what kind of message would you have to youngsters that feel incredibly uncomfortable taking on certain challenges?
I think the phrase that comes to mind, courage is not the absence of fear. It's actually how we step and confront it. So what does that mean? You know, often at times, and maybe you've experienced this as well, it's like we want to push that uncomfortable feeling away. And the more we try to resist it, the more it actually consumes us. And actually, what the lessons I've learned, it's actually bringing it in. Tom Dawson Squibble, who is a performance coach that I've worked with, has this great model. He calls it the triple A model. And it's really about acceptance, acknowledgement, and then action. So it really speaks into this. If you can sort of capture the vision of that's the fear, it's actually accepting that that's what it is, acknowledging that that's what it is, but then working out an action that actually allows me to come closer to that. So I'm not trying to push it away. I'm actually coming closer to it. And I think that is the one of the sort of secret formulas, I believe, in that space. We need to accept it. Being courageous in that space, it's okay to get it wrong. That's where we learn our greatest lessons. I mean, as players, I've probably been borderline depressed from time to time because of the failures that we've had to go through. And like, how do we come back from this? But somehow we found a way, and we've pushed through. We've leaned on each other in those moments to say, "Hey, we've got this," or "You've got this." We've encouraged one another. We've certainly experienced that in the WCL, where it's like, "Okay, yeah, keep going." You know, even though it was let's call it lesser pressure. 100% did we feel pressure there in that final, as an example. It's like, cheapest, am I going to be able to do this? We're here again in a final. Are we going to choke? Are we? You know, all these things come up, and it's not about suppressing them. It's actually like, okay, you were there. Okay, but how do I want to do this anyway? What did I stick to in terms of the success of what I've done? Yeah, that's been the lesson.
I think you rather take on your fear and fail than not taking it on at all, because that makes you feel more like a failure and it puts more doubt in your mind and makes you doubt yourself even more. And the incredible thing about taking on your fears is you learn from it, and the next time you'll be better at it, and that's how you move forward. Love that, Japes. And I know you're a bit of a philosopher of life, so that's why I asked you these deep questions, because you love going deep into things. It reminds me a bit of KG as well, Kagiso Rabada. He also likes to think completely differently to the rest of the people out there. I love talking to him about the game and life as well. WCL, Japes, South Africa champions, ending out on top, winning the trophy. I know. I didn't expect the kind of reception we got back home. I mean, the people in Pretoria are absolutely, when they see me, they go ballistic, like, "Oh, so proud of you guys." I didn't even know people were watching it. In fact, it's the second most watched league in the world by viewership. I don't know if you knew that. How did you enjoy it? I know I had a lot of fun. As you said, we had some pressure moments, and the competitive edge will never go away. But what a trip.
Yeah, I mean, glorified golf trip with a little bit of cricket, wasn't it? No, I'm kidding.
Maybe that's how we should have been playing all the years. We were practicing too much.
Leading the pack was Alan Donald with that stinky golf swing of his. But Man, I think what I certainly taken away from that is, you think about all the relationships that you formed over the last 15 to 20 years that you played international cricket. And, coming back into an environment such as that one, and just it felt like you just kind of flowed back into that. The smiles, the joy, the banter that we experienced was pure, man, and it was really enjoyable. And obviously, there was a few levels lower in terms of maybe the pressure that we experienced. But when you were in the moment, as you mentioned it, the competitive edges took over, and it's like, no, I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to get over the line. And you could just sense. I remember even like walking out to bat in that final. I mean, I don't know if you are actually aware of this, because you were batting. You opened the batting in the final, along with other games. And I mean, I was down to bat at 6, right? And and all of a sudden, we wanted a left-hander to go in, but Cyril Irvine was ahead of me. There was one other left-hander that was ahead of me, and all of a sudden, Alan Donald looks at me and is like, "Okay, James, you after the power play, you next in." And I think we lost the wicket like 6.1 overs, and I'm like, "Jeepers, how did I end up batting at 3?" But it was a phenomenal script, right? To be able to, I mean, we've spent so many years batting together, formulated amazing partnerships, and then to be able to do it on that level on a final, do it against Pakistan. Yeah, I mean, it was really special, and certainly a moment in my career that I'll always cherish and find special.
I think for me, I felt exactly the same than what I felt like, for instance, in the 2015 World Cup semi-finals. I promise you, I always get nervous before I bat. The only thing that was different, in my opinion, was cricket wasn't constantly in our minds. We didn't have a lot of team meetings, analysis meetings. I didn't lie awake at night thinking about the next game. I would wake up fresh in the morning and go, okay, it's game day. Let's prepare. But the minute I walked out there, my body felt the same. I remember those moments back in the day where I was like, how are we going to get through this? Just watch the ball, keep it basic, keep it simple. So the nerves were definitely still there. Very special to go through that. So I think the pressure was still up, but in terms of what we had to lose, maybe it wasn't as much as we felt like in the 2015 World Cup, for instance. 2008, chasing that world record total in Perth, you went on to score an incredible 100 at the MCG. And here we were. By the way, I knew that you were coming in next. It was part of a little drinks thing that I had, and I honestly I thought about Perth when we spoke about it, and I sort of said, "No, JP next." I agree. Just bring him in, and I immediately thought about Perth, and it was pretty cool to cross the line there again. I don't think we batted enough throughout our careers. Maybe we should sort of go back and find a way to bat together a bit more often. But it was special being out there together, even though it was, as you said, a seniors league, and you finishing off with that 6. I don't think I could move anymore, so I was very happy that you sort of took the reins the last 5 overs. Um, James, just the dynamic of the WCL. Do you see yourself playing a few more years? Obviously, for all of us, if we're selected and healthy and fit. But we all enjoy the tournament. You see yourself playing a couple more years?
Particularly this year, I think the approach was a little bit different. So last year I was there as well, but probably didn't realize that we actually still need to prepare a little bit for it. Leading into it. And I think this year I certainly my mindset was different. So I think it really comes down to the body, whether the body's good enough to go. But I think it's a great tournament. It is a tournament that, as you mentioned there, like South Africans, when they see you now, they like, wow, it was so cool to watch you guys and so forth. I've certainly experienced bits of that as well. And the theme that comes out is just so good to watch you guys again. And I think that's what people appreciated, is that they were great supporters of us for a period of time. And to be able to sort of relive that a little bit was a bit of a nostalgia moment for them and us. So I certainly want an opportunity to do that again, yeah.
All right, enough of cricket, Japes. I'm way over time, so we're going to cover the main topic now, the priority. something that's a bit of a surprise to everyone out there who don't know about it yet. But there will be an incredibly special golf day hosted by the JP21 Foundation. That's just around the corner. We'll talk about that in a minute. I just quickly want to let the viewers in on what the JP21 Foundation is. I might read a little bit here. It's founded in 2015 by you, Japes. It operates a bold yet heartfelt mission to ignite a passion for cricket and equip underprivileged youth with tools to lead healthy, hopeful lives. By partnering with local schools, particularly in Mitchells Plain and Strandfontein area, Japes, you grew up around that area. The foundation delivers far more than coaching and equipment. It creates safe, joyful spaces where children learn teamwork, resilience, and self-belief through games. With programs spanning dozens of schools, thousands of kids, and deep roots in Duminy's own community. Very, very special, Japes. We also have that golf day coming up. Just tell me a little bit about the JP21 Foundation and how it started for you.
I think the great question to reflect on is why the JP21 Foundation. And it started with the question from my father to myself is, what are you going to do with the credibility and opportunity that you've been given in cricket? How are you going to pay that forward to the next generation, and particularly where you come from? And that is a question that I've sat with for many years in my playing career. And eventually we got to this point in 2015 when we launched. And it was really about reviving the game of cricket in Mitchells Plain and Strandfontein. At that point in time, this is a community that's over 1 million people. At that point in time, you had 4 out of 54 schools actually just playing the game. Now, you think about fostering talent and giving opportunity, 4 out of 54 is never going to do that. So we saw an opportunity to revive it. So we launched, and immediately we had 22 schools in our program. So we facilitate the primary school program in Mitchells Plain and Strandfontein. So we got mini cricket, and then under 12 and under 14. Over 35 schools now to date in the 10-year period, operating with over 2,000 kids a week. And it's what really brings me joy is that I see now the fact that the opportunities that I've been given in cricket, it's now being paid forward to these kids. That it's not necessarily just about finding the next cricketer or international cricketer or the like. It's really about changing mindsets. So what are some of the challenges in the community, and not only in this community, many communities over South Africa, we know this, right? Gangsterism, alcohol abuse, drug abuse. And what you see in front of you doesn't have to be your reality. And people see myself and many others that we've played with before and going forward as role models. So what are we going to do with that? How do we encourage them to not always just take the easy route? That in life there are going to be tough times. There's sacrifices that have to be made. You can make something of yourself that can be a success, but also more importantly, a success in your community. And we're using cricket as a vehicle to open the door, but to encourage them to think differently and to make different choices. And this is where the phrase comes in: what you see in front of you doesn't have to be a reality, because unfortunately, what they see in front of them is dismal for the most part. And we're trying to change the narrative of the choices that they make through the vehicle of cricket.
JP21 is not just fostering athletes, it's building brighter futures for everyone. Japes, that is incredible. Japes, tell me a little bit about the golf day. I think it's at Royal Cape, right?
Golf club in Cape Town. And as you mentioned, it's 17th of October. And what I love about the Ryder Cup format is that it brings out the competitive edge. I think in COVID, we actually did it in the numbers of how the Ryder Cup actually is played, which is 12 against 12. But obviously, with what is the goal here? The goal is to raise as much funds for the foundation as possible. So we got a full field, which is 34 balls. The other 2 members in our 4 ball are us. And you're going to love this because they love their golf as well. Jacques Cullis and Mark Boucher are going to be playing with us.
Oh my word.
So it's going to be festive, but there's certainly going to be some chips, and there's certainly going to be some competitiveness within that 4 ball. But essentially it's about raising funds, right? And this is our flagship fundraising event that we have generally every year. And there's some great corporates that are involved, guys that support us, that have supported us for the last 10 years. And we have a whole lot of fun. So obviously the golf, and then we have, a dinner in the evening where we'll have some auction items and trying to raise as many funds as possible. And what's also special about this golf day, we've actually collaborated with another organization called QuadCare. I mean, if you think about just a electronic wheelchair, you're looking anywhere between 40 and 50,000 rand a chair. So obviously, with us raising funds for that, it serves a great purpose. And this is something that speaks straight into who I am in my heart, is to help others. And the foundation and the golf day is just another aid into that.
I think our purpose in life is to make this world a better place, no matter how, whether it's just as putting a smile on someone's face, in whatever capacity you can afford to. And that's the ultimate goal, I feel. Just quickly, JP21 Foundation celebrating 10 years this coming year. So it is a special event. 35 schools currently active, 2,000 kids active in your program weekly. And it is focused around the area that you grew up in. And I love, we spoke about Devil Brevis earlier, about him sort of going back to his roots. And that is exactly what you're doing. That is the easiest and best, most, I would say, impactful way, is to start with the people around you, the places that you know well. You don't have to fly to New Zealand or to New York to go and change the world. It can happen right around you if we just look around ourselves. And Japes, I'm very much looking forward to that. Congrats with the JP21 Foundation. I know you don't like to take credit, but I like to give it to you. Let people give you compliments. I think it's incredible what you've done, and it's sustainable, right? And I think there's a big future. It's not stopping here. There's many, many more years, even after we leave this beautiful place. Hopefully these kind of foundations will be so strong, it will still be running. Just so to everyone out there who wants to take part in the JP21 Foundation, wants to contribute, the information will be down below in the descriptions box. So please go and have a look at that and take part in the fun, contribute, and help change lives. Japes, thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Abraham Benjamin, always a pleasure. Thank you, brother.
I hope you guys enjoyed that chat with JP. He's a really good friend of mine. I always love picking his brain. I always feel like he's got so much knowledge and insights. And I hope you guys enjoyed that from him. He also plays in the WCL with me, as you found out there. For those of you who didn't watch the action, it was all live on Fancode. And talking about action live on Fancode, there is the Grand Prix this coming weekend in Azerbaijan. I am not a guru when it comes to Formula One, but I absolutely love to watch athletes in their peak form. And there's definitely something building up here, guys. McLaren can wrap it up. That's the Constructors' Championship this weekend. This will be their second consecutive Constructors' title, which will be obviously quite an incredible achievement. And if they do so, McLaren could break the record for winning the Constructors' Championship with most races left. That'll be a great record to break. There have been 8 Azerbaijan Grand Prix to date, and there have been 7 different winners. A little bit inconsistent there, but Oscar Piastri was the winner in 2024. He's got a lot of reason to be confident. He is the main man this season, and lots of momentum behind him, so he will try and replicate what he did last year. He leads the Drivers' Championship by 31 points over teammate Lando Norris, so hopefully the two of them will work together, or at least they will hope to be working together to try and get a win under the belt. Charles Leclerc, who I've been watching on Instagram over the last week, without his shirt on his yacht, looking in great shape, but not always in great shape out there on the track. He's been clinching the pole position at every Azerbaijan Grand Prix since 2021. Obviously, quite an advantage there. He loves that track. It's no doubt about it. He's fast there. But can he have the strategies and game plans in place to turn that into, the goods? It would be great to hear my prediction, right? I think it is all McLaren. Lots of confidence from last season, Piastri winning, and that team just looks unbeatable right now with a great lead. And I think it's going to be them to take the win over there in Azerbaijan. As you know, the action will be live on Fancode. Do not miss any of that. I will be watching, and I absolutely cannot wait. So that's my prediction for the F1 this coming weekend. I will also be seeing you live this coming weekend. And just to let you in on what I've been up to the last couple of days, been seeing Mr. Kevin Peterson, who is starting something very exciting. He got me into an aeroplane to fly to a place called Richards Bay in South Africa, where some of the most beautiful game lodges in the country is. And we had a bit of fun together. Also, a couple of chopper rides. We did create some content together. There is something really exciting coming from his side. We will be collabing on that and quite a few things in the coming future. So keep an eye out for that, guys. I will see you all this coming weekend live. Thanks for joining me for this week's 360 show. Goodbye now.
Technology, gotta love it.
Yeah. It's looking good now, Jabs. Thanks for joining us on the 360 show. Thanks for making time.